feeds Pelosi. Off the wall to Harris. Harris has got Pelosi. Harris to Pelosi. Shot. He scores! Chris Pelosi!
And Poitras trying to drive in on that right wing side. Poitras in. Scores! Matt Poitras in overtime.
Billis took it right off his stick. Sends one through. They score! First career goal for the Bruins draft pick, Don Billis. Back to the blue line. Cowan has it, looking for the return feed. Cowan lets it go back to the point. Shot!
Those were without all of their World Junior guys for that against Simon Fraser. BC played him Sunday. Good pass ahead. There's Yelvik. He scores! Didn't need an exhibition.
Will come up with it. Ross Schwab flips it out to center. Now McKinney gets chased with Harrison. Harrison to the backhand. Score! A deft touch.
Watch out. Nelson steals. Walks in. Scores! 6-2. Jackson Nelson has the hat-trick.
In Crosby line. Dulowitz at that. Now he's going to walk.
Welcome in, folks, to this week's episode of Dom.Hockey, the podcast, presented, as always, by our friends over at Ice Shaker. Check them out. Get your Bruins, your favorite hockey team, college, anything, right on the side of it. It is awesome. I could go on about them for a while, but I won't. I will save the time. Dom, how are you? You ready to talk some prospects tonight?
Yeah, I'm tired. Long day at work. I still got a Bruins game to watch because, us Canadians, we like to work. If we're going to become the 51st state, we have to make Donald Trump some money. So we were at work while you guys were enjoying a hockey game.
Well, it was a good one. So I'll leave it at that. I won't do too much to spoil it for you, although I'm sure you probably have some idea. Kevin jumping in already and says no fighting tonight. So
yes, people love it.
We'll have to see. We got some interesting comments after. But anyways, Bruins prospects. We got Sully jumping in. What is up, Sully? Where do you want to start?
Well, was a lousy week for the prospects. Well, not really a lousy week. Friday was great. Saturday was terrible. Things were good for Providence. Back-to-back shutouts. One for Mikey DiPietro, the other one for Brandon Bussey. So let's save Providence till last because we got a whole bunch of Providence highlights for everybody. We've got a few from the non-pros, but like I said, it was a bad Saturday for them, so not a lot of highlights there.
Yeah, and one in particular, we'll touch on him later, that I'm really looking forward to hearing your thoughts on as one key prospect. I think I'd call him a key prospect for this team. Returns to action from injury. So where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with in college with Casper Nason and Miami. Team continues to struggle, man. They lost their 13th and 14th in a row. Things are not looking good for them. But finally, Nason himself got off the schneid and scored a goal. I think he had gone 11 games straight without registering a point. Was a bit of a lucky goal, went off his leg and found twine. But you know what? They all count. If he wasn't in the right place at the right time, it never would have hit him and bounced into the net. So credit for being in the right place at the right time. I know you've got highlights. I don't know which ones you have there, Chris, because I forgot what I sent you.
Yeah, so this first one I have is of that lucky goal here. Let me just get it pulled up on the screen here. And we'll pull the caption down for a minute, as we're going to block it enough ourselves. But
so that's Nason skating to the top of the circle there, moves out in front, bounces off of him, and into the net. So
yeah, like you said, the positioning was there. We'll replay it again one more time here. We can go slow it down a little bit for folks so that they can see it fully develop in real time. Brian jumping in the chat. How you doing today, Brian? As you mentioned, Nason over here cutting to the middle, cutting to the crease, just in the right spot at the right time, and finds him for the goal. Like you said, it's awareness.
yep.
Not bad for a
Exactly.
first-year college player.
Other than that, not a great weekend for the team or himself. Like I said, at least he got off the schneid. Funny thing, though, even though he went so long without a point, I had him pegged for 6 goals, 10 assists on the season. After this weekend, he's on pace for 9 goals and 5 assists. So points-wise, he's right on target. Goals are a little higher. Assists are a little lower. But product of the team that he's playing for as well.
Yeah, like I said, not bad. First-year kid in college. He came over from, where was it that he was at before this? Finland? Or Sweden?
No, Sweden. He was in the J20.
So, I mean, there's only so much you can ask for a kid in his first year in a whole new environment, new country, everything.
Yep.
So I'll take it. I'm not going to complain. I know some folks would want to see better, and you got to take it in context, in full context. So I think he's doing a good enough job. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to get too down on him for.
A late pick. You take gambles on guys like this. I think was he a 6th rounder or a 7th? He may have been a 7th rounder.
7th, 214 overall.
And Kostadinsky went right after him later in the same draft.
Yeah. So, and the fact that he was only drafted in 2023, like if you figure 2023 draft pick is at least 2 to 3 years away at a minimum, I would say he's on good pace to hit 3 to 4 years, and you really can't complain about that.
I'd like to see him at a different school, to be honest with you. Like I said, things just are not going well there right now. When you lose 14 games in a row.
Yeah. I wonder if he's someone that you could see enter the transfer portal and go to a more Boston-based, like a BU, BC, Providence, somewhere like that, closer to the Bruins organization.
Boston will dictate that.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd have a hand in it for sure.
Yeah.
But, even if they went to Maine, somewhere where he was a little closer, they could keep a decent eye on him, unless he has some reason to want to stay in Ohio, University of Miami in Ohio. But it could have just been get him over here, get him established, and then we'll work on where he plays after that.
Could also be that they're the only ones that tried to recruit him. You don't know, right?
Yeah, could be. So, again, I'm not going to complain about 8 points in 22 games. I'm worried about that minus 14, but plus minus, we've had that conversation. It's not the end all be all statistic. So
not without context.
Yeah, I'm not overly worried about it.
Then we move on to a Latvian who played in Sweden in the J20, is now at his 2nd year at UMass, is Dom.Hockey. He's a favorite among Bruins fans, one of our favorites. Friday night, they lost 3-2 to Merrimack, dropped to 500. Saturday, they bounced back and won 5-2. He had a helper, 1 shot on goal, finished a +1 with just over 16 minutes time on ice, and 5 for 11 on the draw. I'm going to read out the stats, Chris, at what I had than pegged for at the start of the season and the pace that they're on now. So Lach Mellis, I had pegged for 12 goals, 22 assists, 34 points. Points-wise, he's right on target. It's the goals and assists that are way out. So he's on pace for 5 goals, 30 assists, 35 points. Right on target with the points, just the goals and assists are way out of whack. So the production is there for him.
Yeah. What do you think accounts for that? Do you think it just has to do with the play of the team around him, that he feels that his role, like last year he was 7-7, 14 points, 7 goals, 7 assists, right down the middle in 30 games. So almost half a point per game player and half, 25, even split.
Yeah. But this year he's playing mostly with 2 shooters.
I was going to say, do you see that
preferred.
as him adapting to who he's with, which I wouldn't say is a bad thing?
No, that's exactly what he's doing. He's playing with 2 shooters and he's setting them up. He's a smart hockey player. He recognizes where the strengths are in a play, where the best play is, and he recognizes that. And you also have to recognize that his defensive game is really, it was always there, but it's really coming along at super speed right now.
Are you seeing anything in his game, in the adaptivity of his game? I don't know if I just made that word up or not, but we'll go with it, to maybe adjust your projections for where he could get to as an NHL player?
No, I still think at this point he projects to be a third line center.
Okay. Which, I mean, if your third line center can get you that, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Especially if it continues, and his international experience for Latvia speaks for itself. I mean, he's produced there every bit as much. So, again, if you get a third line center out of a draft pick who is 119th overall, I think everybody would sit there and say, where do I sign up? I would take that guarantee over any gamble for a 4th round draft pick any day.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know you mentioned he went 5 for 11 on one of the days at the dot. How was he overall on the weekend on the dot? Do you think that's going to be a favor of his?
Friday night he was 17 for 22.
Okay, so
like he's good on faceoffs. He is very good on faceoffs.
Oh, Kevin, our buddy Kevin, jumping in saying, "Boy knows how much we need a third line center." Well, you know what, Kevin? At least if you can draft and develop your own, you can keep them a little cheaper, and you don't have to trade for them.
Yeah, but Kevin, you got to look at it like this: in a couple of years, when he's in the NHL, if he's your third line center, Matt Poitras is your second line center, and you get a bona fide number 1 center, you still have Elias Lindholm there. You're doing fine getting a third line center in the 4th round in the draft. Oh, you're always joking.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Or he's either joking or he's eating. So, what do you think of Lach Mellis's ability to maybe move over to a wing position as needed?
I've seen him play wing in the J20. I've seen him play on the wing internationally, but he quickly gets moved back to center.
So center is his absolute strongest position.
Absolutely. No question about it.
The only reason, go ahead.
Just because of his defensive game.
The reason why I ask is because you mentioned Poitras being on the team, Lindholm, if he is projected to be your third line center in a couple of years, and then you mentioned a bona fide number 1 center. I'm like, so where does that leave Lindholm? Where does that leave Poitras? How does that center depth look if you want to have him penciled in at your 3C? But
remember, I've been saying this for a while now about Lach Mellis. I don't know where he fits in with the Bruins organization because of the players that are there. So, maybe he becomes trade bait. Maybe teams are seeing something in him that he becomes trade bait. You just don't know.
Yeah, Kevin says, I'll never complain about a good pick in the later rounds, regardless of what the projection is. Kevin, that makes you one of the few. Because everybody wants, so many people want anybody who's ever drafted to be, I don't know, a Hall of Famer, regardless of where they're drafted. So my team took them. They've got to be good. And if they're not, they suck. It's the world we live in. So, but no, I love where his game is going, and I'm glad to see it continue. How many more seasons do you think we'll see him play in the NCAA?
I think next year. Next year, and after that, he absolutely turns pro.
Okay.
If he continues the pace he's on, absolutely.
So this year and then 2 more. I'm
assuming one more.
Well, no, I'm saying 1 more in Providence, and then we might see some up and down movement with the big club, depending on where that looks. But I agree. It'd be interesting to see if they try to use him in as a trade chip at all.
Okay, let's move on to BC because we got a bunch of highlights to get onto. We're going to get to Dean Letourneau at the end. We're not going to talk about him right now. We'll focus on Oscar Yelwick and Andre Gassot. And I promise we'll get to Letourneau after we've been through everybody. So on Tuesday, they faced Mason Langenbrunner and Harbord, 1-3-1. Really tight game. Andre Gassot set up the empty net goal, finished with lone assist, 1 shot on net, a +1, and 10 for 13 on the dot. Just under 20 minutes time on ice. Yelwick didn't register a point, had 2 shots on goal, 16 minutes time on ice. I will say Letourneau played 7 minutes and 16 seconds and was 4 for 5 on the dot. On Friday, BC faced Providence College and Philip Svedback and won 3-0. Yelwick scored his 4th of the season into an empty net set up by Gassot. So that's 2 games in a row Gassot set up empty net goals.
Yeah, that chemistry is looking pretty solid right there.
Yeah, I love the chemistry between these two. If they go to Providence at the same time, which I suspect that they will, I hope the coaching staff leaves them together in Providence. So Gassot had 17 minutes time on ice. Yelwick had 18 minutes. I felt for Svedback in this game because he had no run support. I will say that Letourneau, this is one of Letourneau's better games. Again, we'll get more into that later. Played 10:30 something time on ice. And they had the rematch on Saturday and won again 4-0. All our guys went pointless. Do you have the lock with the?
No, I don't have any of the
goal.
I don't have any of the goals from BC or from for Schmaltz. The next ones I have are from Hendrickson.
I figure empty net goals, no big deal. It's like, so Yelwick. Let me start with Gassot. Had him pegged for 16 goals, 21 assists. He's on pace for 15 goals, 13 assists. Before this weekend, he had just 3 assists on the season. The helpers weren't really coming, and I'm surprised because he's in the middle. So points-wise, he's a little off the pace. Goals-wise, he's right on pace. Yelwick is really hurting. because I had him on pace for 18 goal or had him pegged for 18 goals. He's on pace for 8. And I had him pegged for 36 assists. He's on pace for 15. So he's way down. There is a reason for it. He missed a couple of games due to injury, came back, and he wasn't 100%. But the first 7 games of the season, 7 or 8, he played in the middle instead of on left wing, and he absolutely sucked. This guy is not a centerman. He's a left winger.
I was going to say, do you think some of that also has to do with the quality of where he is in the lineup based on some of the guys around him? I mean, you're talking James Higgins is going to be a top pick this year. Ryan Leonard is a top pick from last year. Stiga is on this team. Like Gabe Perreault was on the team. Like there's a lot of forward depth in front of him. So do you think
he's playing second line? He's playing second line. He's getting PP time. So is Gasol.
So just being not in his strong position then.
Yeah, for the first half dozen games or so, it was brutal watching him trying to play center. And why they even tried him there is beyond me.
After a strong performance last year, a weaker performance this year, do you think he goes back for his 4th year at BC next year, or do you think he goes to Providence and turns pro after this year?
Depends on how the rest of the season goes. If he continues to play at the pace he's now in his strongest position, I think he'll want to turn pro.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't see him not wanting to.
I'll be disappointed if the Bruins don't offer him a contract. I really will.
Yeah, he's playing. I think when he's playing his strong position, he deserves one. It's when he's not in a position to succeed that's where you're gonna. I mean, as with most players, that's where you're not going to get the best out of them. So,
yeah. So, let's move on to North Dakota. Jake Schmaltz.
Did you want to touch on Dean Letourneau real quick?
No. We'll get to him at the end.
Okay.
You forgot I said that.
I thought you meant at the end of that group.
No. Once we get through everybody else.
We will come back to Dean.
Dean. North Dakota lost to Western Michigan 3-2 in overtime Friday. And lost the second game to them 5-1. Schmaltz was kept off the scoreboard both games. His ice time is dropping. It was 11:28 in the first game, 13:45 in the second game. Face-offs, it was good Friday night, 10 for 14, then sucked Saturday, 7 for 19. Face-offs is one of his strong suits. Defensive game is one of his strong suits. Again, I had him pegged for 5 goals, 16 assists. He's on pace for 7 goals, 12 assists. So he's almost right there. Again, I've said it a number of times on this show. I don't know that he gets offered a contract.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his career at North Dakota, hasn't exactly been on a great trajectory of growth. So, I mean, he's a candidate for a PTO down the road, but not necessarily from the Bruins.
Yeah. So,
and it would be an AHL, probably an ATO, probably an amateur tryout or something. Well, that'd still be pro, but you know what I mean.
I just don't see an NHL contract from the Bruins.
No, he might have to work his way up from the ECHL if he were to jump that direction. So
on to Minnesota. Beckett Hendrickson. I love watching this guy play, man. I really, really do.
I know you sent me 2 clips for him.
Like energy galore. On the fourth line on Friday night, they won 5-2. 2 assists, including on the game winner. We've seen this guy when at times he gets thrown up to the first line, and he can play with talented players. Most of his points have come when he's gone up there. But you got 2 clips?
Yeah, I got
Okay,
the first one right here.
Let's do that one. So this is him behind the net.
Makes the play that leads to the goal.
Yeah, but but he won a couple of battles there. One that isn't on the highlight here, but here he avoids a check, does the right thing, keeps it on the ice there, hoping for a rebound. I forget who that was that banged it home, but the announcers, why don't we have sound there?
Oh, I can play it with some sound if you want.
Yeah, because they were talking about his work ethic too.
Sure. We don't want to hear him talk at half speed, though. Let me see if I can get the audio here. Can you hear it?
No.
Okay. So the way that the program shares the screen doesn't share the audio.
Okay, that's fine. And then you have another clip of him from
I do.
Friday.
Yes. Let me get that one pulled up here.
I watched over 200 goals last week, so I'm trying to remember them all.
So this is the one he actually scored.
Oh, that's him on the left wall. Okay, reads the play, bam, like in one motion out front and in the back of the net.
Yeah, I think since some people missed it, we'll slow it down a little bit here.
So he's on the left wall. He reads the play, knows the puck is going there, one motion without looking, out front, right on the stick.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the placement on that pass, he's got someone closing in on him, one right through the legs, and hits him in perfect stride to beat the goalie. Top glove. That's a beautiful goal.
Yeah,
but that one's all in the assist.
Definitely.
So,
but tenacious little hockey player. I love him. Now, I'm going to go through the stats, and they're not good, but they shouldn't be in his first year. So I had him pegged for 11 goals, 16 assists. He's on pace for 5 goals, 8 assists. But you know what? He's coming on. So he might get there.
well, he's also a first-year college player.
Yeah.
He came from the USHL last year?
Yes.
How different are the USHL and the NCAA leagues?
Very different.
So, I mean, last year, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. So he split time with Sioux Falls and Dubuque. He had 59 games total with 64 points.
Yeah.
So he does know how to score. He can
does.
put up numbers. So he's one that I would say circle on your board for year number 2. See where he is at when it comes to his numbers for year number 2. Once he gets a full year in college, in the U.S. under his belt as well.
And you know what? I still like him better than Chris Pelosi.
Yeah,
I do. But, we talk about prospects and how bad the Bruins prospect pool is. Or we're being told how bad it is. And I wrote 6 different articles about it last summer about this. When you're lacking the top end picks, you have to try to win the rest of the draft. Okay? Like an example, Jeremy Swayman was picked in the 4th round. Right?
Yeah.
The Bruins didn't win that draft, but they won that round. Okay? Donslack Mellis, the Bruins didn't win that draft, but they're probably going to win the 4th round in that draft. Ty Gallagher, the Bruins didn't win that draft, but the Bruins are probably going to win the 7th round in that draft. Beckett Hendrickson, the Bruins didn't win that draft, but they could very well have one of the 3 best players come out of the 5th round in that draft. Or was he 4th round? 5th.
Hendrickson?
Yeah.
He was 4th. 124 overall.
That's how you win drafts, is by getting one of the best 3 players out of a round.
Yeah. I mean, when you're not drafting in that high-end position, you're not going to start off with high-end players.
No.
And if you mentioned Swayman was a 4th round draft pick, there are a handful of goaltenders who went ahead of him, including Michael DiPietro, who's in Providence right now, UPL, who's in Buffalo, Jake Ottinger, who's in Dallas. So, there were plenty of goaltenders picked ahead of him, and yet you're still likely going to win the round and possibly the goaltending position from that draft.
Yeah, you just have to win the rounds. That's it. You cannot always win the draft because you're constantly trading picks.
Right.
But you win the rounds, that's successful drafting. And the Bruins have won more rounds than a lot of other teams.
Right. And I think there's also a warped sense of Kevin also points out real quick, we won the Loride draft. Kid's skating is so fluid. He needs to stay on that power play. He looked solid there today. I don't want to give too much of that away, but there's a great part with him on the power play from today's game. So I also think, back to what I was saying, there's a misconception about the draft as looking at it through a tunnel with tunnel vision. This draft is successful based off of this draft and only what comes out of this draft.
Yeah.
2017, by all accounts, other than Swayman, was not a great draft. But you essentially got Hampus Lindholm out of it because you drafted Urho Vakanainen, developed him enough that you were able to ship him with other pieces to Anaheim and bring in Hampus Lindholm.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm going to cut you off, Chris, because we got a lot to get
I know
through.
that was the end of my point.
Okay, so Quinnipiac and Chris Pelosi, Elliot Gronwald. I'm really beginning to love this Gronwald.
You skipped over Ty. I got clips for Ty.
Okay.
We didn't talk about Mr. 7th rounder over here.
Colorado College snapped a 4-game losing streak on Friday, winning 7-2. And then they went back into the loss column on Saturday, losing 4-1. Gallagher had an assist on Friday night on the 4th goal of the game. But I think I got a couple of clips on Gallagher I sent you.
Yes.
One to show you how the power play runs through him.
Yep. The first one, though, is off of a shot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, this kid got a bit of a howitzer when he lets it loose.
Now, he plays 2 positions on the PP. He'll play the half wall for the one-timer, or he'll run the power play from the point.
Yeah, so he's down here basically in Ovi's office is what we'll end up calling it. But he gets that, and while it's just off, that's a good solid rip right there.
He can rip the puck.
So
so he's no longer leading the team in scoring, which is in a way a good thing because you don't want the team or the defenseman leading the team in scoring if they're going to go anywhere. So he did have an assist, and I think it was the power play where it just runs through him. Play the clip, Chris.
Yeah, I got that one. I think one of the good points on this one is to just see how much he touches the puck. Again, he's right up here, right between the dots to start the clip. Gains possession by the blue line. And as they pass it around, I mean, he's involved in every bit of this.
That pass, no look.
no look pass, and they get the goal off of it. But
he's just a smooth skater. You know,
and after this last clip, there is a comment I want you to address in a minute here.
now I'm that goal was scored by Gleb Veremiev, who attended Bruins development camp. And the Bruins have expressed some interest in him. He's a free agent. So once his season ends, be looking to sign a NHL contract. He raved about Boston. He liked the city, the organization, raved about it. 2 seasons ago, he was in Calgary for their development camp. He didn't have a whole lot of good things to say about Calgary. Not like he did about Boston, but there were 3 NHL general managers in attendance. This is the goal Veremiev scores here, I believe. Is it not, Chris?
Yep. Yeah. I was waiting for you to finish. I was going to say he makes a great move on this goal too. But again, Gallagher at the point with it, sets the play up. And I believe that's him cycling around again.
No,
that's not him.
Number 28 there.
But
big body. He's a pure power forward.
Look at him right here coming in. And it looks like he's got some ability to skate there too.
He does. He's a power forward by definition. Absolutely. So as I was saying, there were 3 NHL GMs in attendance Saturday night to watch him.
Yeah, they may. I mean, the fact that he has spoken highly of Boston tells us that they're at least on his list. So,
and the fact that Gallagher is there, he can also whisper in his ear.
Yeah, I don't hate that because I think Ty's had some pretty good stints in camp himself. So I did want you to touch on this though. Bruins 1970 says that Mason Lohrei, because he came up from Kevin's comment, is a liability.
No.
Thoughts on or a response to that real quick?
No, I don't think so. When what you do offensively starts, when your mistakes outweigh what you do good, then you're a liability. And in Lohrei's case, that's not true. Anyway, Lohrei is not a prospect. We got
tons of prospects to get through.
50 minutes to get through all the prospects. Lohrei is not a prospect.
Yep. We'll talk about him more another time.
Okay, so Pelosi, Friday night, they defeated Colgate 6-3. Pelosi had an assist, was a +1, whopping 7 shots on goal. I love his tenacity. I don't think he's as tenacious as Beckett Hendrickson is, but I love his tenacity and his willingness to drive to the net. His shots come from most of his shots come from the top of the blue paint. And you're always going to take that. 18-25 time on ice, 11 for 13 on the dot. Gromwald also had an assist, was a +1, no shots on goal, 21-50 in time on ice. He's averaging over 20 minutes a game as still an 18-year-old in college. You cannot complain about that.
No.
Pelosi scored Saturday night, 2 shots on goal +1. He was only 5 for 13 on the dot with 23-17 time on ice. They play him a lot.
I was going to say, and I got the clip of the goal too.
Do you? Okay, let her rip.
Yeah, so he's right down here in the slot. You mentioned at the blue paint. This is case in point. He is right here in that blue paint, just above it, and he gets a nice pass out and just rips it.
Yeah, that was a perfectly placed shot. And it wasn't on his stick long.
No, it genuinely was not. So,
but that's where he goes, and that's where he does his damage. And somebody said to me the other day when I was talking to them, said, "Does he remind you of JVR, James Van Riemsdyk?" And I said, "Yeah, in his willingness and stuff to battle in front of the net, but I think he's a much more tenacious player than JVR was."
Okay.
Ryan Walsh.
Not Riley, Ryan.
Ryan. So Cornell defeated Princeton 6-2 on Friday night. Walsh led the way with a goal and 2 assists. I think he is quickly becoming the most underrated prospect the Bruins have. He leads Cornell in scoring. You have a highlight of the goal he scored Friday night?
I do. Game tire and the game winning goal.
Yeah, people say his skating is an issue. You watch this and you tell me if his skating is an issue.
Let's see. So he's going to break out.
He breaks up the play defensively.
And then I love that burst of speed right there and splits the D. Oh, I don't see an issue with his skating right there. I don't. Yeah. I mean,
he's a big body.
No, but
play it again. I got to see that one again.
Yeah. After he makes the play in the defensive zone, he sees that it's about to score it out, and he gets that pass, and he just takes off. I mean, I don't think looking at this clip anybody would ever say there's an issue with his with his speed or with his skating in general, but that speed that he showed there was, I mean, he split the defenders, and they had the head start on him. So, and then I have the other one here.
Well, play that, and then there's a question pertaining to Walsh.
All right, so this one here coming in, finding the open net, just finding the garbage in front of the net is what it comes down to. Right place, right time, seeing the opportunity and jumping on it. Clean it up in front of the net. So I'm guessing when you said the question here is Mike's question. If Boston has a center position covered, would Walsh excel at the wing position?
Yeah, I don't think his skating is an issue, like some people are saying. I can picture him flying up and down the wing. But I like his game at center. Remains to be seen.
Yeah, and he's only in his second year at Cornell, so there's plenty of time. And by the time he's ready, I mean, what do you think? Do you think he goes back 1 more year, 2 more years,
I
1
think
year
he goes,
in Providence?
I think he goes 2 years. Now, just to tell you, I had him pegged for 17 goals, 18 assists on the season, 35 points. He's now on pace for 19 goals, 19 assists. Right on target.
There we go. I will take that. Not too bad for a pick in the 6th round.
Yeah, so Mason Langenbrunner already talked about his game against BC on Tuesday. On Friday, they defeated RPI 5-2. All season we've been doing these shows. We're talking about him being a 7th defenseman, getting little ice time. Credit to him to sticking with it, and his production's come up. He's now playing second pair defense. or playing on the second pair. So kudos to him for sticking with it, not getting down, continuing to work. I still don't see an NHL career there, but you got to give him credit. He did have an assist on Friday, was a +3, just under 20 minutes time on ice. Just playing with a ton of confidence right now. Saturday they lost 4-1. Was an even plus-minus 2 shots on goal, 17 minutes time on ice. So he's gone way up from the 10 minutes he was getting, 10 minutes or less he was getting as a 7th defenseman.
Yeah, and maybe you can attest to this. Is that something that maybe they're just cycling people through to be that 7th defenseman?
No, it was his. It was his.
So, I mean, at least he's responded to it. He's coming out. He's playing well as you could ask him to at this point. And like you said, I'm not sure there's an NHL contract there, but that doesn't mean there isn't a tryout, a camp invite. Like, just because we say there's not an NHL contract right out of college doesn't mean there's no path for them.
Right.
It just, at a certain point, you have to know when to move on from a prospect. And right now they just maintain his rights for what he's in college for one more year or two?
Two. His path to the NHL is his father, Jamie Langenbrunner, Bruins assistant general manager.
Yeah, it's in his name. But at the same time, he still has another 2 years at college where he can prove, hey, no, I can do this on my own merits as much as my name.
Yeah.
So it just remains to be seen.
Let's move on because we got a ton of Providence stuff to get through.
Yes, we finally have Jonathan Myrenberg returning to action.
Yeah, finally. Played in 2 games, Thursday and Saturday. You could tell after missing 33 or 34 games that there was a lot of rust. Looked a lot better the second game around, actually played 17 minutes. The biggest benefit he's going to bring to his team is transitioning the puck. And it was evident on Saturday that they have been lacking it all season. They were so bad that they're within a whisker of dropping into the relegation round and being demoted next season. We've talked about that on this show before. I think he's going to help them get out of that. I really do. I believe in this kid. I believe in his talent. The points might not always be there, but it's not always about points. He can defend, and he can get the puck up ice.
Yeah, the big question. I mean, I'm not surprised and I'm not worried when you say that he looked rusty. I mean, in the NHL, 33 games is almost 2 months. These guys are playing 2 games a week on average. So you're talking, 3 or 4 months he's missed at this point, not to mention the time with the injury before that. So it just, I'm not surprised. I'm not going to put too much stock in the fact that someone who's missed that much time was rusty. The fact that there was improvement from game 1 to game 2, that's all I'm looking for. That's all I'm looking for.
Yeah. So move on to Loka Johansson real quick. Moncton had a 3-3 weekend. Or 3-4. Something. I believe they played Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. I can't remember now. So Thursday, Johansson had an assist. That's a 3-game point streak for him. Kudos to him. He's really picked it up offensively this month, which is something that the Bruins told him they wanted him to go down and work on. The streak was snapped on Saturday, as was Moncton's. No, their win streak ended on Sunday. They continued their win streak, but Johansson's point streak came to an end. And then on Sunday, they lost a heartbreaker 2-1 to Quebec. Johansson was kept off the board there. I'm going to be interested to see what happens with him next season, whether the Bruins, because he is signed to a contract, but whether the Bruins think he's better off spending another year in Quebec or whether he should turn pro and go to Providence.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. There's a couple of interesting opportunities there. We just talked about Myrenberg. What they do with him is going to be interesting too, because they're going to lose his rights soon as well. So it was an interesting move. We talked to Craig Eagles when they signed that contract, so we'll have to see what he can do the rest of the way.
Yeah,
I do have that assist, by the way, if you want me to pull it up.
Oh yeah, because I thought when I saw this happening, I thought, oh, this is over the glass penalty. But they interviewed him after the game. He said, no, he knew exactly where he was putting the puck.
Yeah, so the puck comes into the zone. I thought exactly the same thing as you. As he takes it around the net here, he just flings it off the glass. I thought that was for sure going out and out. And I'm not sure the shot beats an NHL goaltender or most goaltenders, so it doesn't necessarily end up in an assist. But the smooth play to just up and off the board. I mean, he disked that thing off too. That thing was spinning like a solid biscuit there. So,
but he said after the game that oh no, he planned that shot. He used to do it a lot back home. So,
well, I'll take him at his word because it looked like it.
And it landed right on the stick.
I know. That's what I mean. It looked like he's practiced that kind of move. So I'll give him credit for it.
Yeah, I'll give him credit. Why would he lie about it, right? So let's get to the USHL guys. These guys are really disappointing me, man. So Friday they lost 5-4 to Youngstown. Bounced back on Saturday and defeated them 4-0. Both Morello and Spicer had assists on Friday. Kostadinsky did not. And all three were shut out on Saturday. And why they disappoint me? I like Morello's defensive game, but his offensive game isn't where it should be. I had him pegged for 18 goals, 26 assists, for 44 points on the season. He's on pace for 6 goals, 21 assists. Just not good enough going from Canadian Junior A to the USHL and heading to college next season. And this is a guy at the draft when everybody was talking about, what do you think of the Bruins drafting him in the 5th round? This was before the draft. I kept saying he won't be there in the 5th round when the Bruins pick, and sure enough, he was. So a lot of people knew better than I did. But he was ranked higher than where the Bruins got him.
Yeah, I mean, that tells me one of a couple things. I mean, either he's just not what he was projected to be, or he just needs more time to develop, and it's going to take a little more than what most teams were willing to put into the player.
Yeah, it's not like he's not getting the ice time in Dubuque, because he is. Cole Spicer has been moved down to the 4th line now. I don't know what's going on there because he was producing, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. We've already covered Svedback's 2 games, so we'll get to Providence.
Let's jump over to Providence.
Yeah, because we got all the goals here, I believe, from 3 games, right?
Yeah. Let's see. I got Merkulov's on Wednesday, Pitlick on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, Saturday.
Well, rather than talking about the games, let's just go right to the highlights, or we're going to run out of time.
Sure. I got Merkulov's goal coming right up here. This was the opener for the game.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the goal.
I know you watch so many of them.
Oh, this is the one off the face-off. Okay, what I
Yeah,
like
right off
about
the
this,
face.
it goes back to Jackson Edward. Look at him move. Wait. And Merkulov gets a stick on it.
Yeah, I'll run that one through a little bit slower here because you're talking about how
Like he's just buying time for everybody to get into position.
And then you see Merkulov cut to the net. He gets there. He's right there for the rebound. Easy tap in.
Yeah.
And that opened the scoring about halfway through the first period of that game on Wednesday. So
now, if I remember the Pitlick one, it was a wicked shot.
As I say, it didn't last because Pitlick later had to tie it up. But we do have that one queued up here as well. And that one was right from the slot area itself.
Yeah.
So Pitlick's a veteran, an NHL veteran too. So, you expect to see some of this type of stuff from a guy like that down in Providence.
And on an AHL contract.
Yeah. He's one of those players. We've talked about the players that were sent down earlier in the year. Matthew Poitras, those guys. He is someone who's shown value in helping the guys in Providence become better pros, not just on the ice, but also off of it. And I mean, we're seeing that pay off with a call up for Letierri now, with Poitras now.
Yeah.
Like that's where he has his value.
Okay,
I have the Tufty shootout goal.
Yeah, because this did go to a shootout.
We got Tufty's goal here on the shootout.
Patience, man. Patience.
So that was a solid goal. What have you thought from Tufty? While I get the Saturday ones all queued up here, what were your thoughts?
Well, I want to continue on the game. So DiPietro stopped 37 of 39 shots. And 4 of the 5 in the shootout. So this went 5 rounds. One thing I want to say about Jackson Edward is, and we're going to see more of him in these upcoming highlights, is, and I made this comment way back when we started this show, is Jackson Edward was drafted by the London Knights because he had some offensive upside. He was never asked to play that in London, so we didn't really see it. We're beginning to see it in Providence now. Trying to get his stats here real quick. He has 1 goal, 6 assists, 7 points in 20 games. He doesn't even play every game, right? I think Providence has played 37 or 38 games.
Sounds about right.
So he's played half of them. So we're starting to see it. And the thing is that Ryan Mougenel has him playing the right side. He's a left shot and has him playing the right side, which he did almost the entire season last year in London.
Yeah, he looks pretty comfortable on the right side too. So,
okay, let's get on to Saturday. DiPietro with the shutout, stopped 26 shots. Max Jones had a pair. Anyway, we'll play them.
Yeah, so this is the first one for Jones. Again, another one where they're going to the net for him.
Yeah. Wish the big club would do it like this club does.
It would be nice. I mean, at least they're starting to get some goals the last couple games, but not enough here. Let's see. The next one was Kuntar.
Finally got off to Schneid. Man, he's disappointed me this year.
But the passion's been there, so the heart, it's been there. But he bangs in a nice rebound goal here. and
that was
he's
a good.
earned it.
That was a good shot. He does have a really good shot. I would say it's an NHL caliber shot. It's just he's just been so disappointing for me this year.
I like the awareness though to go around the play and go to the net. So again, not someone who we're sitting here saying top line guy, but if you can get some of that kind of offense from someone who projects out to be on your fourth line, that's a win.
Yeah.
Farinacci here.
I love John Farinacci. Free agent signing. That was a beautiful tip, eh? Right out.
Oh yeah.
In the high slot.
Can't ask for much more than that there.
Yeah.
So he got his goal Saturday. Then we've got another one from Merkulov that I'm pulling up here right now as well.
We should also mention that Fabian Lysell missed Saturday and Sunday's game with an illness.
Yeah, that's why he's not in any of the highlights, because he's been sick. But it'll be interesting to see if they call him up to the big club once he is healthy. I know it was something we talked about yesterday. So Merkulov here showing a little bit of patience.
A lot of patience. And man, he can rip the puck too.
It's funny. Every time I see that 51, I either think of Poitras or I think of Spooner.
Yeah.
But way to wait. Holds it, and then he gets that shot off, rips it right in. Just a solid overall game from them on Saturday here. And then Jones gets his second of the night as well. We'll run through this one here.
This was so bad. Brandon, I'm trying to think of the goalie's name there. Oh, it'll come to me.
That was Syracuse.
Yeah, he played for the Sioux Greyhounds in the OHL, and he had such a promising career.
Halverson?
Yeah, Halverson. Brandon Halverson, right?
Yeah. 6'5", big-bodied goalie.
Yeah, there was so much promise in him, and it just never materialized. And when you see things like that, you go, yeah, no wonder. Like, he just gave that away.
Yeah, that was, we'll call that a decision right there.
Yeah.
It just looked like he never had control of it, which, it happens, but you can't have it happen regularly. And
exactly.
That's what ends your NHL career right there. But hopefully he can find it again, but just not for Tampa.
Yeah.
Last thing we want is for them to find another replacement for Vasi.
Bye, Kevin.
Oh, Kevin, have a good night. Go enjoy that burrito. Again, I'm not sure why it's a burrito, but we're just going to stick with it. It works. All right.
Okay, so Sunday, Bussy's turn to get the shutout. I have a highlight reel save from him I sent you. But we'll get to that one.
That's the second one I've got.
Yeah. The first one is the goal from
VL.
Yeah.
He's been impressive to me. Not amazing, but impressive. I'm glad he has a second year on his deal. Makes him affordable. I like the shot selection here that he ends up with. And just, it seems like he is on a good trajectory. I mean, you're talking just over half a minute into the game, and he puts them ahead.
Now, before you play the Bussy save, I got to say, a lot of people remember the save he made in exhibition against the Rangers 2 years ago, right? And thought he could play in the NHL. We don't need Jonas Korpisalo. We have Brandon Bussy. No, Saves like that are few and far between. Play the clip, Chris, and then I'll finish my comment.
Alrighty. I got it set for half speed just so people can follow. Obviously, puck comes across the net. This time he gets it blocker side because he catches right. But that's a solid post-to-post save right there. So,
Yeah.
Dom, what is the rest of your thought on that?
My thought is you know what? Yeah, he made a great save. They're few and far between this season. As we mentioned last night, Michael DiPietro has surpassed him and taken over the number one role in Providence. Sometimes stats don't tell you the whole story. If you go back to last week and some of the goals we showed, right, Chris, that they would never beat an NHL goaltender. The stats don't tell a story. You've got to see them in action. And I'm afraid to say if Brandon Bussey was the backup goalie in Boston this year, the Bruins would be a lot worse than they are right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know everybody loves those flashy saves and they are fun, especially when you're watching them in real time. But I mean, when you really look, and I'm just going to pull it up again real quick here. If you really look at the play, the pass is made. Brandon Bussey sees that pass is made. Clearly, and he starts his movement over. So by the time it's arriving on the player's stick for the one-timer, he's already moving over. And it's frictionless ice. He's going to get there quick. So by the time he gets there, it's just a matter of is the shot going to go high or low? And when you're making a save like this, you're going to get as far into the net as you can, as quick as you can, and take up as much of it as you can and hope that it just deflects off of you. He gets his blocker in the right position, and he makes the save. Absolutely no one would sit here and crush Brandon Bussey if this puck goes in the net.
No. Or shouldn't.
Right. No one is going to sit here and blame Bussey if it goes in because this is one he shouldn't get. But because he saw the pass clearly, he knew to get over there. And of all the players on the ice, he's got the shortest distance to go.
Yeah.
So it just comes down to he's playing his angle right on that save. And while it looks great in real time and it's this awesome thing to watch, it doesn't mean that he's surpassed somebody on a depth chart. It doesn't mean he's ready for the NHL level because you can make that save if you know that pass is coming.
Exactly.
So Pitlick also scored. He scored the second goal of the game, which I have queued up here for us. Pitlick was another one, another veteran guy. I know people question some of the moves that Sweeney made during the offseason quite a bit, but I mean, if you look what's going on down in Providence, Pitlick, VL's paying off. Like some of these guys that he brought in.
Yeah, but Pitlick's on an AHL contract, remember?
I know. But
Sweeney,
I put him in that group.
Sweeney didn't sign him. Evan Gold signed him in Providence.
You don't think Sweeney had anything to do with it, though?
No. I guarantee Sweeney didn't have anything to do with it.
I don't know. I'm sure they had conversations, and
I'm sure the scouting department, maybe the pro scouts, but Sweeney's got enough to do than to worry about Providence. That's why they have a Providence GM.
True. But Pitlick has played a big part in helping develop off the ice some of these guys as well. Harrison got off the schneid as well.
Oh, that's what, 2 in a week?
Sounds right.
Another disappointment. Huge disappointment. But
He needed that.
He didn't even have to get his shot off there. It was just like I could have scored this goal.
It's a nice little tap. But you know what? Sometimes those are the goals that sometimes help regain your confidence and get things going again. I don't see it being a career changer because at this point that's what it would have to be for Harrison. But
let me put it this way. Jackson Edward has played 6 fewer games than Brett Harrison and has as many points. And if you look at the Pitlick goal again, guess who set it up?
Edward.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know. I'm very disappointed in Brett Harrison. The kid's got a Hauser for a shot, but can't piece everything else together.
No, and right now, like even if you use bench rates, which I'm very high on, Ian Mitchell is dipping in his play, which means Edward has to step up. But, as far as I'm concerned, who their best defenseman has been from start to now would be Mason Millman.
Yes. Millman has been very fun to watch. He's been great to watch, and that's been a great ad.
Yeah, and he's on an AHL contract.
Earning himself NHL contract, potentially.
I kind of wish that they would sign him. Now, Frederic Brunet, I believe, has played every game this season. 2 goals, 8 assists. I would say Jackson Edward is outplaying him. I honestly would.
Okay. How many contract spots do they have that they could sign a couple? Because we got the college free agents are coming up too.
I think they're at 5 remaining.
Okay. I can take a look here in a minute.
I'm pretty sure it's 5. Maybe it's only 4. But I wouldn't use them to sign a Millman now. I'd wait till college free agency and see what I could do. But then my college players, I don't want to sign them for this year unless it's an elite level player or a high-end player that you're going to need the contract and allow them to burn a year off if that's the only way you're going to get them signed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I would put Remiev in that category just yet. I have to see how the season plays out. Now, for those that don't know, he is of Russian descent. He was born in New Jersey. His parents immigrated to the United States. So he was actually born in New Jersey. So, yeah, it's a Russian name and he's of Russian descent, but he is a full-blooded American.
All righty. Let's see. We got this last clip here of Pitlick and his second goal of the game, which again driving to the slot area.
He's got a great shot.
Yeah, beats Springfield, which is a good rival for Providence too.
Yeah.
So, actually, Mike, speaking of, are there any college free agents that you feel comfortable Boston are going to be in on?
100% Gleb Veremyev. Veremyev.
I mean, just search Gleb. That in of itself is an uncommon name.
No, because they had a goaltender at development camp a couple of years ago named Gleb.
I know. I said it's uncommon. That's all.
Very common.
Is it?
Sure it is. In Russia.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So Gleb is in his 3rd year of Colorado. Could he go back for a fourth year?
He could, but this kid's not a kid. If he is a kid, he's in a man's body. He's built for the NHL. He's a true power forward.
Yeah,
I don't know that he'll ever beat Tom Wilson.
I've got him pulled up. He is 21 years old, 6'4", 205 is what Elite Prospects has him listed at.
I think he's a little more than 205. I would think.
Mike wants to know if there's any hope for CJ Fowley being signed by the Bruins out of Dartmouth.
I haven't heard anything. And I don't know. I think the fact that they're missing a second-round pick and a fourth-round pick this year, that they're going to try to get a couple of college free agents.
Yeah, the response that I would have with CJ Fowley is, where does he project out versus a guy like Ty Gallagher? Ty Gallagher is a guy that you've drafted, that you've put time and effort. You know his game. You've seen him at multiple camps. He is a 6 foot, 187 right shot defenseman. Foley is 5'11", 174. So yes, he's a Hanover, Mass native, and we know how Sweeney likes his Mass guys, but I just don't know if that's going to be enough to overtake a couple of years worth of development that you've put into Ty Gallagher. And Gallagher's showing to be a very solid future, projections right now, especially with the bounce back year.
I will say this with the college free agents. Yeah, the Bruins have been lucky with guys like Torrey Krug, guys like Kevin Miller, coming out of college as free agents. The Bruins actually tried to draft Torrey Krug, but they couldn't get the extra pick to do it the year before they signed him. Anyway, they haven't been so lucky with Mark McLaughlin, Georgian Merkulov to date, Brandon Bussey to date. It remains to be seen on John Farinacci, although I have hopes for him. Is that everybody now, Chris, that were college free agent signings?
I think so.
I believe so. So while they've been done well in the past, it's not done so well lately. So, they're going to be careful of the guys that they go after. And I think they will go after a couple because they're missing 2 picks.
No, I agree with you. Mike's question, he says, I guess my bigger question is, what are the biggest factors in college free agent signings? The fit, the relationship, so on and so forth. How do you think the team goes about determining which ones to go after?
Oh, fit's number one. Definitely. You got to remember, when they signed like Merkulov, they needed centers in the organization.
Yeah.
They hadn't drafted very well with centers, and there was some knowledge of Merkulov, being that he played with Mason Lohrei. So fit's number one. They did the same with McLaughlin and Farinacci, trying to get that center depth. We'll see if it pans out, but I would think if I'm the Bruins, they're looking at a guy like Veremyev, who is a power forward, fits what Cam Neely and Don Sweeney tried to do last season or this past off season in getting bigger, but with guys that can skate. He fits that. He can produce. We don't know if he can do it at the pro level. but he's the type of guy that they're looking for or would be looking for. I would also imagine with the lack of depth on defense that they'd probably look for a defenseman that would fit what they're trying to do on the blue line. Big, can skate, and can defend.
Yeah, I mean, you can't teach size, as they say.
Right.
So anything else, I mean, if you look at some of their picks, Jackson Edward, big physical guy. Konstantinsky, big physical guy. Needs to work on his skating, but he will lay that body, and that's a big body to lay. So I do have a question for you, Dom.
One more first.
You go ahead.
They may be even looking for a goaltender. I know they grabbed Brian Bishop last year on an AHL deal, but they may be looking for another goaltender.
Yeah, that is certainly somewhere where they could use a little bit of help. And right now the question is what's going to happen with DiPietro and Bussy for next year, because they're both going to need new contracts again. So it'll be interesting. But I do have a question for you myself, Dom.
Shoot.
We were probably about 45 minutes ago, we were talking about our BC guys, and we never circled back to Dean Letourneau.
Okay, we're at that point now.
I was just going to say, are we back at that point now?
Yeah. So there's a lot of worry in the fan base about this player, and it's strictly based on production or lack of in this case. And I can't stress. I mean, I tried to be as adamant as possible that before the season even started, that don't worry about numbers with this kid. We want to see an improvement as the season progresses, because as you explained it last night, Chris, this is like Matthew Poitras jumping from the OHL to the NHL. That's the kind of jump Dean Letourneau made, going from Canadian high school hockey to the NCAA, missing that whole level in between. Maybe 2 levels, because he could have gone Canadian Junior A before the USHL. Okay, so it's a major jump. He's got a body that needs to fill out. But this weekend, watching him, and I concentrated on him as much as I could, is the most engaged physically that he has been. It's like a light switch turned on in his head, and he figured out in one game how to use his size and his strength to his advantage. And that's a good sign. The production will come. It'll come for him. It may not come this year, but it'll come next year. I just think some people are using the word bust.
I've heard that one so much.
But I'll tell you what. If we're not considering Matthew Poitras as a prospect, and let's say he's not, he's in the NHL right now, who do you think holds the most value in a trade among Bruins prospects?
Well, I mean, Letourneau is definitely going to be up there. I would probably put him in the top 3.
He would be my number 1.
Would he?
He would be my number 1. He may not be the Bruins' best prospect right now. Okay. That probably still belongs to Fabian Lysell.
Well, I was going to say, depends on if you're putting Lysell in there or
you're putting him in there.
Some of those guys,
but the upside with Dean Letourneau, Fabian Lysell would be here at this level. The upside with Letourneau is up here.
Yeah.
And that intrigues GMs. Yeah, he may bust out, but I'm telling you, when other GMs are looking at the Bruins prospect pool, let's say Vancouver for JT Miller, the guy they're looking at is Dean Letourneau. It's not Fabian Lysell. It's not Georgi Merkulov, and it's not anybody else. Maybe Matt Poitras, but we're not considering him a prospect in this conversation. It's Dean Letourneau.
Yeah, GMs tend to have an eye towards a player like Letourneau at his upside and say, I can get that out of him. My organization can quote unquote fix him. Not that there's anything wrong with Letourneau. You mentioned the buzzword. I've seen it countless times. And the only reason why you would consider an 18-year-old kid whose first year in the NCAA at the age of 18 to be a bust is because you look at a stat line that reads 20 games played, 2 assists, 4 PIMs plus 3. That is the only reason why you would consider him a bust. You wouldn't take anything else of the situation into the equation because with everything else, there's no way you can call him a bust yet.
No, but I will tell you the argument people have made when I use that exact same phrase or conversation with them is, okay, what about Elliot Grunwald then? Okay, let's use that. Let's compare him to Grunwald then. They're both 18. Why is Grunwald having such a good season as a freshman in college as an 18-year-old? And the answer is simple. Elliot Grunwald went from the USHL to the NCAA.
Yeah.
He had already been playing at a higher level of hockey than Dean Letourneau. Again, Canadian high school hockey to the NCAA. NCAA is up here. The USHL is here. Canadian high school hockey is way down here.
Yeah, and I would also sit there and say there's less pressure on Grunwald to score because he's a defenseman. So it's a little easier for him to focus on the defensive aspects of his game and let points just come when they're there. So there's that regard. And just in general, their stat lines aren't that far off. 2 points in 20 games for Letourneau, 7 points in 23 games for Grunwald. Like, again.
But one's a defenseman playing over 20 minutes a night.
And the other one's a forward who's playing 10 minutes a night. So
right.
Twice as much time.
But the 7 points to 2 points may not sound like a lot, but it's a lot.
But we're, as you just said, twice as much time on ice.
Yeah, but that's irrelevant. The forward should always outproduce. I'm saying 7 to 2 points is not as close as you think it is, Chris.
All I can say is calling Dean Letourneau a bust at this point.
No, but I don't look. I don't look
ridiculous things.
I don't look at points.
So
I don't. Just Grunwald was much more prepared for NCAA hockey because he played at a much higher level than Dean Letourneau did. Last week, I showed the highlight of his defensive game. Remember?
Yep.
Going in, right? Grunwald's game is an all-around game, and he was prepared. He was made prepared by playing in the USHL. Let's not forget, that's where Dean Letourneau should be playing right now.
Right. 100%. Real quick before we get out of here, because it is 8 o'clock at this point. Robert adds in, Sweeney has drafted a lot of 3rd to 7th round forwards and D-men since 2015. That's based on where he's had draft picks available, Robert. So that's the best you can do when those are the draft picks you have. They've been competitive at the NHL level, so that means dealing your 1st and 2nd rounders to bring players in to help the team now. Michael then asks one last question from him. In hypothetical trades, quote unquote, how does a prospect who's been impactful compare to a pick? For instance, Poitras when he had 95 points, or someone tearing up the AHL. What are comparables as far as like a draft pick?
Oh, the known quality is always more valuable than the unknown. So if in his draft plus 1 year, you were offering Matt Poitras or a 2nd round pick, because that's where he was selected, a 2nd round pick, to an NHL GM, I bet you 30 of the other 31 GMs would take Matt Poitras.
Yeah, I mean, Poitras is a player now. You don't know who's going to be available at the pick that you have either. So
no, I'm saying in his draft plus 1 year. It's before he even played in the NHL.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is because he had 95 points, he doesn't have 95 points in the NHL at that point. So it's just a matter of you pick the known commodity. You know who the player is. You know what you've seen from him. If you're taking that or a draft pick, the draft pick's a gamble. It's always a gamble. Until there's a player's name attached to it, there is a gamble, period. Even a 1st-round pick. You can trade Boston's 1st-round pick right now, and the rest of their season is going to dictate whether that's a lottery pick or a second half of the draft pick. In which case, it's more closer to a 2nd-round pick if they go on to make the playoffs and so on and so forth. Lottery pick means they could be 3rd overall. Big difference.
Yeah, so like when you take a prospect, like this year's 1st-round draft pick would probably be more valuable to a GM than any of the Bruins prospects. Just because of the situation they're in. But if let's say Ty Gallagher, for instance, okay, was picked in the 7th round. If you're offering a 6th round pick to a GM, which is a round higher than Ty Gallagher was picked, or Ty Gallagher, the GM's going to take Ty Gallagher because he knows what he is. And the chances of getting a player in the 6th round that's going to play in the NHL is slim to none.
Right. Ty Gallagher, you at least have 4 years of college under his belt. You can see what he's done, and you can see what that projects out to be. He may still flop. He may not succeed in the NHL, but you have a track record there.
Yeah.
So with that, though, again, I want to thank our friends over at Ice Shaker. Check them out, iceshaker.com. You can get customized ice shakers. The shaker bottle is kitchen grade stainless steel, doesn't hold in odors. It's got the agitator at the top to break up any protein powders and all that fun stuff. Check them out. Again, I can't say enough great things about them. Dom, do you have any final thoughts to wrap up this episode of Dom.Hockey, the podcast?
No, I'm going to go watch the Bruins game now because I had to work today, so I didn't get to see it. And I haven't even seen any of the highlights.
Well, enjoy the game. Don't get too down on yourself during it. And do you know how it ends?
No, I don't.
Okay, I won't give it away then.
No, I've stayed off of Twitter all day, with the exception of tweeting about the show and all that. So, no, I don't know how it ends.
Good. I'll leave you to it then.
I'll tell you, I was expecting a big game from Trent Frederick, but I know he was sick, so because I saw that this morning and he wasn't playing.
Yeah, you got a no game from Trent Frederick.
Yeah, and I was expecting a big game from Matty Poitras, and I was expecting another big game from Mason Lohrei.
Definitely a hit on Mason Lohrei. Poitras played well. I based on where he was in the lineup, I put down a bet that he was going to get a goal, which didn't hit, but he did end up with a point. So the point bet wasn't available, but the goal bet was. So I tried.
Yeah, I would never take a goal bet when it comes to Matty Poitras.
I was looking for the point, all right, but he wasn't available. So I was like, you know what? With my luck, he'd score a goal anyway. I was looking for an assist or a point. And
If there's an assist there, I'll take the bet. A goal, I would never take the bet.
Right. Well, it wasn't my favorite bet, but the fact that he was playing, I was like, well, he's playing on a line with Martian and who was it? Who was on the right side there? But I was like, well, I'll try it, see what happens. Didn't work, but a couple of my other ones hit. So I did get one of my other anytime goal scorers. So
well, there you go.
Let's see. Robert adds in NHL games played leader drafted by Don Sweeney in 3rd to 7th round. No one, the forward, Lauko 83. Hard to get excited about all these 3rd, 7th rounders drafted by Sweeney based on his own results. Robert, if you look at when these draft picks were made, they're just now starting to get to be ready for the NHL. Most of them are just now getting ready to turn pro. So it's a delayed reaction when you're drafting 3rd to 7th round guys. That's the whole point of what we're talking about. 1st and 2nd round guys might take 2 to 3 years. 3rd to 7th round guys are going to be 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Some of them aren't ever even going to make it. So they're coming. That's the best that we can tell you. Anything to add to that, Dom?
How many games has Jeremy Swayman played?
Let me go take a look. That's a good question. He's up there. Swayman has 166 games played. So, double the number. Anyway, with that, last thing I got, Dom, is go Bruins prospects.
Make a trade, Don Sweeney.
We'll end it with that one. I like that one better. Make a trade.